I thought my server actions were fast until I added logging, then analytics, then revalidation, and then suddenly it's like, hold on, let me finish these 3 different errands before I actually send a response. But makes no sense, right? The user already has what they need, then why are we making them wait? So what if instead we gave the user the response instantly, because that's what they truly care about, and moved all this extra work in the background? And that's exactly what the after function in Next.js lets you do. It's like telling your app, send the user what they need right now and deal all these chores later in the background. Let's see exactly how that works with a few real-world examples. Now, this is one of the lessons that I pulled from the Modern Full Stack Next.js course to show you exactly how the after function works. After allows you to schedule work to be executed after a response is finished. This is useful for tasks and other side effects that should not block the response, such as logging analytics. And it can be mainly used in server components, including generate metadata, where you generate SEO tags, server actions, route handlers, and middleware. So mainly on the server side. So anytime you see there's a lot of work that's being executed in your server action on your server side, divide it into work that's important and works that are not so important. And then move the work that can happen in the background for stuff that the user doesn't have to wait for, and move that into the after function. Where would you actually use after? We'll think about all the extra chores we tack onto our server actions. Things like logging, sending emails, firing webhooks, and so on. These are important, but none of them should block the user from getting the response. And that's exactly where after shines. So let me walk you through a few real examples straight from my Modern Full Stack Next.js course. It's a comprehensive interactive course that helps you build and deploy production-ready applications with modern best practices. I pulled this lesson directly from the course to show you exactly how this function works. The first one is analytics tracking. So anytime you want to track signups, login, or feature usage without blocking the user. Why would we use after here? Because tracking shouldn't really block the user from continuing. This runs in the background. It's analytics. It's ideal for analytics platforms like PostHog or Amplitude, or your own logger, or any of the logging services or analytics services that you use in your application to track. You could use after with that. So if I click on this, you will see that we see a toast notification that says workspace created, analytics sent in the background. So if you take a look at the code, then you will see that analytics event has been logged. But if we take a look at one of the server actions where this happens, let's go to workspace. And create workspace is an action that gets executed. And if you see, we are creating the workspace here, we are simulating a database request, but we are then logging the event in after. We are logging it for our purpose only. So we could move that to after. Transactional email. If you're sending welcome emails after signups without waiting for delivery, this is a great example for after, because sending an email can involve retries, can involve cold starts or API latency. No reason to make the user wait for it. So if I click on this button again, account has been created, welcome email sent in the background. We're just trying to simulate a real world experience. So let's take a look at the code. Handle email is the function responsible for executing the server action. So if you click on this, you will notice that again, we are creating the user, then we are pushing a user to an array called as users. They're using after to send the welcome email because again, this should not block the user. We could just return user here. And even if this welcome email takes 5 minutes, user should not wait for that. So we are returning the users the minute the user has been created, and a sign up process is a typical example for this. So definitely a good case for after. The next example is whenever you want to kick off any background jobs or trigger webhooks. For example, if you want to trigger a Stripe webhook or execute a queue or a edge function that you want to execute, you could use after for that. So background jobs are a good example for that because as the name indicates, they are background jobs. So you want to fire and forget something external like a background job and don't care for its response right away, then you could use after hook there. So if I press, task has been created, webhook triggered in the background, and background jobs is in fact triggering handle webhook, which triggers a specific server action called as create job action. Now, if we take a look, again, we are creating the job here in an object, we're pushing it to an array, again, simulating a database, right? And then triggering the webhook over here. So we're using the after function wrapped in here to trigger the webhook. Now, the job could be returned immediately because the job has been created, we trigger the webhook right here that will execute in the background. And once it's done, we don't get a first response. So it's done. The next perfect example is data cleanup. So anytime you want to clean up temporary data, stale sessions, for example, if you want to remove unused tokens after a password reset, clean up any type of stale data in general, then you want to use after function for that. The user just changed their password. Don't delay the success response just to clean up temporary tokens. If you trigger it, password reset, cleanup running in the background. So now if we take a look at the example, again, going back to the action cards here, data cleanup triggering handle cleanup, which triggers reset password action button. And here's what we're doing here. We're simulating a database update and then cleaning up the reset tokens, again using after here. A very good example for after, because we could just imagine that this new password has been set. Obviously, we'll be making sure that we follow all the password best practices, but we are focusing on after function here to clean up without blocking the user. And we can return the success while the cleanup happens in the background. And lastly, we have cache revalidation. Now, cache revalidation is something that's very common in Next.js. We trigger a mutation that is create, update, or delete. Most likely, we want to trigger a revalidation, which means we're indicating to the app router in Next.js that, hey, I have new data, delete this cache and regenerate the data. So in that case, we are going to use cache revalidation. You want to trigger the revalidation inside the after function, because with cache revalidation, you can update the cache and revalidate paths in the background. Again, shouldn't block the user per se. So you could, let's say, for example, update the home page or a dashboard page after a creation of a new product and so on. The user doesn't need to wait for revalidation to complete. It can happen in the background. Going back here, you have cache revalidation. Handle revalidate is the function that triggers it. And here is what we are doing. We are first creating the post and then we are updating the post. So if we go to update post, we want to revalidate the path there. So we are calling revalidate tag, revalidate path, and so on. All these paths, the cache has been deleted. But guess what? We are still returning the updated post because we want to indicate to the user that, hey, their post has been updated with new data. For example, the user doesn't need to wait for that. It can happen in the background. So you get the idea. I use after function in a ton of places across my production apps for logging, revalidating, keeping things blazing fast without blocking the user, and that's the key here. So if you want to learn how to build real production-ready applications with interactive examples like this, how a certain functionality inside of Next.js work, and you will build not just toy projects, but deep dive and build 7+ production-ready applications, then definitely check out my Next.js course at nextjscourse.dev. We cover patterns like these, like caching, performance tuning, server and client rendering, and everything that you need to know to master Next.js. Now, if this sounds like your kind of learning, there's a link in the description below, so definitely check that out. So comment down below and let me know, where would you use the after function in your code? As next steps, definitely check out this video on how I pick my production ready tech stack next. I'll see you in the next one.